Robinson Show. We're back with award-winning author and artist Kevin Miner. Kevin,
hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How you doing, dude?
I'm good.
Good, man.
You were early. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We were just taking a quick break. Where are you, dude? Michigan?
Yeah, I'm in Michigan. I live in the Metro Detroit area.
Cool. And your book is awesome. It's mega awesome. It's mega awesome notebook.
I see what you did there.
You like that? But when we first followed each other on Twitter, I'm like, this looks so cool. And I think I messaged you asking if you were published, and you said yeah. And then you asked if I wanted a copy of it, and I was like, yeah, dude, my son would love that, and he loved it. He loved the book. I love the book too. It's really good.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very, very generous praise there. I appreciate it. And, the more you say that, I'm not going to stop you.
I know he was mad at me, though, because I'm like, William, my son, I was like, I read it before I sent it to you. That way I can interview Kevin and talk to him about it. And he was like, you're not allowed to read that book. It was signed for me, Daddy. And, that started some beef, Kevin.
Yeah. He got you with this one, like, hold on.
That should have been mine first.
Marcus territory.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. But I wanted to ask, too, it's such a cool concept and all. It's an aspiring sketch artist, and he microwaves his book on accident one morning, and it comes to life in the middle of, like, school. It's a really cool concept.
Yeah, well, he microwaves his book with on a styrofoam plate, and the metal binding in the styrofoam in the notebook mixes gases from the styrofoam, which obviously makes the pictures in his book come to life. Because what other scientific thing could happen from that combination, of course, right?
Right? Yeah. That's what I thought. I'm like, you had it. You definitely had this. At least happened to you once.
Two things you should never put into the microwave and put in there.
It actually, when I was a kid, that did happen to me, and I've always thought it was I always thought for whatever reason, metal in the microwave, though, like, I do not recommend doing it. And I definitely ruined our microwave when I was a kid, because I tried to make popcorn, like, in a plastic bowl, and I put tinfoil over the top of it. And
I was thinking you just put the whole Jiffy Pop thing in the microwave.
Well, it's actually dawning on me. So my mom, she said, "Hey, I want to make sure I listen tonight." I said, "Yeah, sure." And I sent her the link. It's dawning on me. I don't think I've ever actually told her the story. So she might be finding out.
Oh, so
the
she's
first
like,
time just now.
She thought it just was like a malfunction. Now she's gonna be like, Kevin, you're the one. You're the one.
I was gonna ask, like, what did you tell her happened to the microwave?
Well, like, if I remember correctly, I think it was like one of the first times I was, like, left alone at home by myself, and I didn't want to admit that I'd, like, jacked up the microwave. And so I think I spun some half truths about what I really did. I might have left out the part about or might have said just like, yeah, I don't know, that's weird.
It's so funny because one of my friends just the other day at work was said something about his wife had read something online that I forget what he said. He's like, you could microwave a baked potato in tinfoil if you put it in a paper bag. And he's like, no, it doesn't work. So I can tell either him or his wife are like, yeah, let's try this. And no, it still don't work. People are still trying to get around that.
It's a way to start a fire.
Oh, man.
If you put paper over it, it's fine.
Yeah, wet paper towel.
Yeah, the paper will drown up the spark.
But, dude, it's an awesome book. It hit on some real stuff, too. It hit on, like, stuff like don't ignore your problems. It dealt with, like, the kids' parents being divorced and just, like, approaching the girl you like. And it did. It had some awesome stuff, but it also had some amazing stuff in there, too, like Tom Sawyer. The Tom Sawyer and the Edgar Allan Poe were just some of my favorite things.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, in the book, the kid's doodles come to life, and he uses his notebook to kind of escape whatever he's doing in the moment. So for a lot of it, it's escaping what he's doing in school. But then it kind of takes a turn, like as you said, where he's escaping all of his problems in there, and he kind of uses his notebook is this piece of escapism to ignore the fact that he feels awkward, he feels bullied, and then once the pictures come to life, he literally has to deal with those problems instead of putting them in his notebook and just kind of pushing them to the side. Like he's forced to confront them.
And two, what is it when he first draws Dude and Little Creation? It's like these little things, and and who erases them? He tries to erase them. Who makes them Dud and Little Cretin? Is that him or is that Dude?
Yeah. That is the creator does that to him. Just to mess with him, because in the story, the first thing he creates is just a little drawing of like a little man, and it's very much kind of like representing the kid's ego, or excuse me, his id, right? It's just wants to have fun and do things like fast and play and whatever. And the creator's very much the ego in the relationship, and so they're in conflict a lot of the book, trying to kind of resolve that id-ego relationship. And one of the things the creator does is he gives them names, and then he takes them away, or he makes a joke out of their names by changing their names from Dud and Little Creation to or from Dude and Little Creation to Dud and Little Cretin. So
I love that. I love it. And it became like a fight too between him and Dud. Like they were both drawing, and then they had this big war. They both drew like what they could draw, and then all those creations went to war together. It's like it's an amazing book, man. It's really cool, really creative. And I wanted to ask too. I saw in the credits, is it siblings of yours that worked on you with it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My two older brothers are very talented illustrators and artists, and so the book is a mix of notebook pages and then a mix of traditional comic book pages. And you'll see the main character, who really, actually, I never named him very specifically in the book, but when he's going through his day, it's like a traditional comic book page, but then you see what he sees in his notebook, and it's more like drawing. And my brothers did the traditional comic book pages. So my brother Jake drew them, my brother Matt inked them. I did the digital colors, and then my brother Matt did the lettering. And on top of that, they have two daughters who are both in their teens. And I said, this is kind of a teen leveled book, at least I'm talking about teens, and I said, and they're actually very good artists in their own right for their age, and so I asked them to draw me pictures. So I scattered some doodles of theirs in the book.
That's so cool. And, that is so cool.
Yeah, and so that way they can get a professional credit while they're still in high school. And on top of that, it ended up being like an award-winning book. So I'm like, I'm throwing this out there a lot to them, like, hey, you guys don't realize you have a lot of pressure on you that you are now award-winning artist.
You got a lot to live up to. So, yeah, you can't.
Yeah, so you owe me some free artwork in the future when I'm doing my next book.
That's awesome. That's what William wanted me to ask you, Kevin. He wanted me to ask you what your next book is going to be.
Right now, I'm working on a few different projects right now, and nothing is like really ready to talk about. They're kind of all in pitch phase and development phase. But I can tell you that when that's ready to go, I'll definitely be throwing you guys some review copies to check out again.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask too, with your brothers also were doing the same type of work. When you were younger, did you guys do it then, and did it ever turn into like a competition?
I wouldn't say it was a competition. They're quite a bit older than I am. I was I'm 10 years younger than Jake and 13 years younger than Matt. And so I was a surprise. So
they should have stopped you.
Very welcome surprise.
They should have stopped you from destroying the microwave. Is what I'm hearing here.
Oh yeah, it's their fault. They should have been watching me, right?
Yes.
But they taught me so much of what I know, and
that's cool.
It's just a few years ago when I finished up college. It's more than a few years ago now, but when I was finishing up college, I didn't train in art or anything like that, and they did, and I just always did it as a hobby. And we decided that we wanted to start a studio and we still do to a certain degree, but for a while we were working as a 3-man studio where Jake would pencil, Matt would ink, and I would do digital colors. And we did some work for Moonstone, where we did Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. We did covers and some interiors there. I did some work with Katie Cook on her webcomic Gronk. Jake did a few other books like Action Man, and he did another one for Moonstone. And then we all did a book for Source Point Press called No Rest for the Wicked, which is like a supernatural Western.
Nice.
And we all have day jobs, so we kind of we pick our spots with our projects, and when we figure out something we can all work on, we kind of clear out time and we do it. But we can't always be like, okay, what's the next project? Because like for me, like I just had 2 kids in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So I've got a little boy, and a little girl, and they are adorable. But my hands are full right now. I'm trying to find time to do the next thing.
Yeah. And is that what I was gonna ask? What is Universe M? Is that yours and your brother's website?
Yeah, Universe M is our studio website, and so like that's where we house like a lot of our stuff. Nice. But right now we're kind of in between projects as a studio, and actually Jake just branched off and started doing like these customizable action figures that you swap off the parts and you color them individually, and so it's like he's in his day job he's a toy designer.
That's amazing.
Cool.
That's cool. That's a great, like an inside too. Like, yeah, if you ever want to go about, toy designing and all, you guys do it all. I like that.
Oh yeah. We try to keep people on their toes. Don't want anybody to put us in the pigeonhole us.
Yeah. Would you ever, or have you guys ever done like animation?
Never done animation. I've dabbled in it for fun, but I've never really dove in and tried to animate something completely. I don't even know if I should talk about this. I did talk with a couple of animation studios about Mega Awesome Notebook, and it went through some of the early phases, but nothing ever came of it. But it was cool.
Because even as I was reading it, I'm like, this would be really cool. I'm sorry, Kev. I didn't mean to cut you off, but as I was reading it, I'm like, this would be really cool, like animated. Like, it definitely would be. Definitely.
Well, kind of a funny story there is that when I first pitched the book to Matt and Jake, I wanted us to do it as a project, like the 3 of us, and I kind of did like a mock-up of the entire first issue, and I showed it to them, and they just went, "This would be really cool animated, but we don't think it'd work as a book."
Wow.
And I said, well, you guys know how to do it? Right now.
Wow. I was going to ask, because, it is like 3 or 4 parts, right?
Well, yeah. I originally did it, like, it would be like a 4-part miniseries, and then we'd be collected into a graphic novel, and talk with a few different comic book companies about it, and they're kind of like, it's cool, but I don't know what to do with it. Like, they couldn't put it in a category. They couldn't say it's sci-fi. They couldn't say it's a drama, or, you know what I mean? And so like I was kind of in this weird space where they'd say, this is cool, but what is it, right? Yeah. And then eventually I took it over to Shipper Publishing, and they said, it's a YA graphic novel. Done. And they snatched it up real quick, and they were awesome. They were incredible to partner with, so I'm very fortunate it worked out the way that it did.
I love hearing that too, like where you dealt with other people that were like, we don't think we could do anything with this, and then you found one that did. Like, so that's a cool thing to hear. Like, yeah, so don't give up.
Well, yeah. Once in a while I get people ask me like, well, how do you break into the comic book industry? And my answer is usually something like, read up, practice, figure out what you want to do, and then make something. Try to make something that's complete front to back as much as you can, and then pitch it, and then be prepared for people to say no, because all it takes is for one person to say yes.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite cartoonists is Gary Larson from The Far Side. I think he's absolutely brilliant, and I read somewhere that he'd been like denied like 1,500 times or something.
Wow.
Because if you've ever read the Far Side, it's just one panel, and it's really kind of this dry, weird kind of humor that if you give it to the wrong person, it doesn't resonate with them. And so, like, if you're getting editors who are just like, what is this? Oh, why is this alligator, talking to a coyote? What is it? Or why are these cows always talking? Like, why is this scientist a cow? I don't understand. And so it took somebody to really champion him, and then he caught on. And I felt like at Schiffer, with Tracy Groff, like, she saw it and she got it, like, immediately. And she was like my initial editor who worked with me on it. She got it just, like, so quick, and she was like, this is okay. Yeah. And, like, I was like if I remember correctly, I feel like I hadn't even, like, finished my pitch, and she was like, yeah, let's do it.
That's amazing.
And she just got it right away. And
cool.
It's nice to get that back-end validation where it gets some, like, awards and gets highlighted and stuff, like, for some, like, in Porter News magazine and stuff like that as their book of the month. And,
Sorry, Kevin. I was gonna say too, when I was reading it, I was reading it. I had my notebook next to me to take notes, and there was a couple times in the pages that looked like notebooks. I almost started, like, writing it. It was, like, confusing. I'm like, I got two notebooks. Like, it really looks like it's a notebook, and it's got even the spiral rings on it too. Kind of like it's really cool. Really cool.
I pushed really hard and failed to make it an actual notebook with spiral binding.
Yeah, it's super cool.
I think it would have been so cool, but Schiffer, and I think rightfully so, said we can't have pages that are, like, easily, we should rip them out or they'll fall out. Into the spiral notebook. And I'm like, I was like, that is a fair counterpoint, because who hasn't had a spiral notebook and had the pages get all crappy and weird?
Yeah, but it actually does appear like it is, though. It's got, even outside, it kind of looks like it's kind of printed, but it still looks like it's got the spiral.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Well, I still made sure that it implies it on the cover and the back cover when I designed it.
Yeah, it's great all around.
You should convince them. You should convince them that you can release a special edition so they know what they're getting. Like,
I did throw that out there, actually, and I think I'd annoyed them to that point. They said, I think the exact quote was, yeah, fine, whatever. Yeah, sure.
Enough about the spiral. Enough, Kevin.
We'll do it.
Have you ever done, too, Kevin? Have you ever had, like, a book signing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I go around to cons. And I give talks, like, at schools and things like that. Cool. And I've done book signings at stores too that are, local to me that I can easily get to and drive to. That's cool. To your point, when you're talking about the notebook paper in there, I'll oftentimes, somebody asked me to, I never even thought about this. Said, will you draw Dud, like, right on the main page, like on the front title page? I'm like, actually, there's enough room. I can draw Dud right there. That's great.
That's cool.
So, so that's fun. I've actually drawn in people's books in there, and I've left, like, other pictures in there, like, like for friends. Like, I'll draw something, like, halfway through the book, and I'll draw something in there.
That's awesome.
So it's fun. The format allows you to kind of do some stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's totally special, more special at that point. Yeah. Like that you did that. That's super cool. I was going to ask too, like, what's one of the coolest things you've had a kid tell you about the book?
I think the best thing that I've had happen from, like, a kid review is I got some, like, I've gotten some fan art. Like, the first time I got fan art, like, I was so thrilled. I couldn't believe it. There was that, but also just the idea, like, it's usually parents telling me stuff by proxy from their kids when they say, like, my son doesn't like to read, but he loves your book. Like, I'm like, I feel like there's no greater compliment, honestly.
Yeah.
For me, like, because I think I was that kid. I liked to read in general, but, like, I did have a hard time with novels and, like, staying engaged and things like that. And I loved comic books, and I found them much more accessible. And my mom is an English teacher, and to her, like, reading is reading. Like, read as much. Like, she just encouraged me to read as much as I could. And she didn't, like, knock comic books as a medium for storytelling or anything like that. She just wanted me to read. And so, like, if a kid gets that out of this, like, that makes me incredibly happy.
Because a couple of summers ago, my sons were up and we did the summer reading program at the library. And yeah, my oldest, he's that way too. He doesn't like it, but I let him get some, like, younger kid graphic novels, and he was reading those.
Mm-hmm.
So that is cool.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
cool to hear
yeah.
that's still like a book.
So I was going to ask, because you just said your mother was an English major, so she didn't look at your book and was like, "Oh, too many pictures."
Or did she proofread it? Did she proofread it,
Yeah,
Kev?
she was an English teacher. No, she didn't proofread it. My wife did, and she is very good, and I think relished any time she found any spelling or grammar mistakes. She enjoyed it a little too much, but she has like such a great critical eye. I know I showed my mom some early stuff, and I think my mom was just like more proud that I was making it, and because she'd seen me do this kind of stuff from when I was a kid, and even like my dad died like a couple years ago, and we went home, and I was like cleaning out some stuff in my room, and my wife saw this stack of like sketchbooks that I had that was probably like 2 feet high, and she just started looking through them, and she's like, Mega Awesome Notebook makes like a lot of sense right now. You might love sketchbooks.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
And,
I was gonna say.
sorry.
Sorry.
So I think my mom kind of saw that. Sorry, I was just gonna say I think my mom saw that too, because she would see so much of what I would sketch and draw. 'Cause I'd show her all the time, and so I think that when she saw me making this, like I think she got that, or at least saw the roots of that from when I was a kid.
I love too. I went and I saw your DeviantArt page. I love the Masters of the Universe stuff you did. Like, are you a child of the 80s or 90s?
Yeah. I'm like the weird mix. Because my brothers are so much older. I was very in tune to stuff from the 80s, even though I was really young.
Okay.
So I was born in 83, so like I was around. But like I know like way more about 80s music and cartoons and sci-fi and pop culture than any of my contemporaries, because they're more kind of 90s. That's when, so like that's just when you're kind of coming of age a little bit more.
Yeah.
So like I definitely, I think I go back and forth, and that Masters of the Universe piece, I was hired to do that at a con as a commission from somebody who did this really cool jam piece where they went around to all these different artists, and I'm already blanking on some of the names, but they had my brother Matt draw Skeletor, my brother Jake drew He-Man, I think Will Jones drew one.
Wow.
I need it in front of me. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's listed on the DeviantArt page. But the guy who commissioned it, he had needs of the digital colors after the fact. And so it was cool to kind of work on that jam piece where a different artist drew each of the different characters.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask too, if you had the chance to work on anything from the 80s or 90s, any animation or comic, what would it be? What would your choice be?
Oh, geez. Like specifically like something like, I think it'd have to be G.I. Joe. It'd have to. I love G.I. Joe, and actually, my brother Jake just started selling. We had this like extensive G.I. Joe collection that was mostly built when we were adults, when we were kids. But like it had like all the staples, like the Terrordrome and like the USS Flag, like the big battleship. Like it was basically everything we wanted to get when we were kids, but we couldn't.
I did that when I got older with Transformers. I did the same thing when I got older in my 20s with Transformers, and I bought all the ones I wanted or had and broke.
Yeah. And you like set them off. You're like, it's amazing, and then you just kind of like, now what?
Yeah. Then I ended up selling them. I ended up selling them years later, but it was just cool. It was just cool to have for a while. But yeah.
If you look at a DeviantArt page, I'm pretty sure there's Jake did a tryout for Devil's Due, where he did just like a couple pages for him when they still had the G.I. Joe license before I believe IDW took it.
Okay.
And so Jake did a couple pages there, and then I did the digital colors on them, and we had a blast doing them. And like we actually had like this 8-pager story written up where we're like, if they like this, like we had this 8-pager story written up where like they were like on a rescue mission, we're infiltrating like a jungle hideout where another Joe was being like interrogated, and like we had it all like storyboarded out in case Devil's Due liked it, and then like the property like switched hands like while we were doing that. So
Oh man,
never ended up doing that.
I was gonna say too. I don't know if you've seen like they've redone GI Joe figures recently. Are you ever in the store and you're like, oh my god, I want to spend like $500 right now, but I got to be an adult.
Yeah, I've seen those and they're gorgeous. Yeah, definitely the piece of me that's saying I need to control myself.
Yeah, I think Sergeant Slaughter, and I was just like, Sergeant Slaughter was one of my favorites because he was a wrestler and then he was G.I. Joe, and I just remember the intro of the show when he was like crouching on the tank and just ready to pounce, and like, oh my god.
Well, I think he was like one of the first characters they did that had like muscles too.
Yes.
Like I remember like it was, I don't know, it's probably late '80s where they started doing characters that had muscles. It was probably inspired by like Predator. To be the more I think about it, and actually Jake did a fun thing where he was customizing figures and he made the entire Predator lineup, and like he even did like the little MTV logo and like painted it on like the chest of I can't remember the name of the character for Jesse the Body Ventura, but gave him like a Gatling gun and everything.
Yeah,
and he posted them on Instagram, and his Instagram page lit up a little bit from it.
Nice.
Joe collectors were very interested.
That's interesting that you said that was the first character that had muscles, because that is like the 80s was kind of very slick and like smooth, and then it was the 90s that was like muscular and action packed and gritty, and like,
all the pecs came in the 90s.
I mean, I could be wrong about that. But he's the first one I remember that had like the big arms. Mm-hmm. And I remember just thinking that was like the coolest thing.
Yeah,
like
because Shipwreck looked like me. Shipwreck was like, look at this skinny guy in his 30s over here. Even Duke was a hunk, but yeah, no, he still didn't have the bulges that Sarge had.
Yeah, no kidding. And so I mean, like when you put Sergeant Slaughter next to those guys, you're kind of like, gee, I wonder who's kind of the biggest baddest dude here. I think it's that guy.
Cobra Commander too. He wasn't big. None of them were.
No. I remember the hooded Cobra Commander. I always thought that was like a really cool version of him that they did.
Yeah.
And then they did the other one that was kind of like chromed out one who was almost kind of robotic, but he was so cool too.
I feel like too though, like Masters of the Universe was like the trial, because all those like figures and drawings, they were all ripped. All the Masters of the Universe guys.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I didn't even. That just hit me. Yeah, it was like pretty much all of them, unless you were the little wizard Orko or like Ram Man, but still Ram Man was like just he was a solid brick of man. But yeah, no, they were like the run. They were like
they started the extreme era.
Yeah, and then after that, we're like, yeah, we all got to do that.
I wouldn't doubt if there's a connection between the two toy lines where they're looking at the popularity of He-Man. It's like G.I. Joe designers looking at the popularity of He-Man. They're like, maybe we should bulk up our guys a little bit.
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I'm sure they study each other.
But just because even thinking about it, like 80s and earlier than that, like a lot of the animation, like superheroes and stuff, they weren't ripped. They were just very sleek and smooth. Transformers too. They were just very clean.
Yup.
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you so much, though, dude. It's been a blast talking to you, man. Where can everybody find you? And where can everybody find Mega Awesome Notebook?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you guys for having me on. It was a blast. And, it was great to just kind of talk to some 80s stuff, too, on top of everything. I didn't see that one coming. That was fun. For Mega Awesome Notebook, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it online through Barnes & Noble. You can get it online through Walmart or Target. You can order it through your local comic shops, through previews. And you can also get it from Shipper Publishing directly. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is KMiner58. You can find me on Instagram at UniverseMGo. And that's just the whole thing. No spaces or dashes or anything. And then my website, as we mentioned before, is universe-m.com. That's pretty much it.
Awesome, Kevin.
You've also made me aware that I need to update my DeviantArt page. I don't think I've done that.
I don't know. I saw it today, and I'm like, oh, this is the best. This is the best DeviantArt page I've ever seen.
well, if you're interested in No Rest for the Wicked, the Supernatural Western, I believe the first 10 pages I put up on there.
Yeah, that sounds amazing too. Yeah, just the concept of it, Supernatural Western. That sounds really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem, dude. Thanks again. Thanks for everything. And yeah, I'll definitely be looking out for another book too.
All right, guys. Thank you.
No problem, Kev. Have a good night, man.